Hi, Four Mile. I'm Bill Nixon, an elder here at the church. I'd like to share some of my thoughts on the succession process and how we came about with picking David Lyle as our potential next pastor. Like the rest of the elders, when Martin shared that succession was being put on his heart by God, my thoughts were, you can't go. What do you mean Martin's going to go? But God's calling him, and who are we to get in the way of what God calls Martin to do? And part of Martin leaving is the job of finding somebody else to lead the church. And that has been a long and detailed process taken on by both the succession team and the elders. How did we come to David? I guess is the question that a lot of you might have. And I'll share my thoughts through that. When I first heard about David, it was through his resume. And he had a pretty impressive resume to an old retired Air Force guy. Army colonel, worked at the Pentagon, and then a professor at the prestigious West Point. And somewhere in there, through 2012, he sent himself through seminary, and quite an impressive guy, but that's not why we picked David. That's just part of the reason that he's qualified. Through the phone interview and process like that, we got to see David's leadership style and what a strong leader that he was. And he also was able to share with us not only his vision for where he would take Four Mile Church, but the surrounding communities and how he would introduce Christ and people to Christ and where he was going to take the church. And again, that was an impressive part of David, but that's not why I think the elders came to pick David. And then there was the weekend where we got to go to watch David preach at his brother's church. And it was great. We got a chance to not just meet David, but his family and his wife and his kids, and see him in his own environment. And what a humble servant we found out that he was. He's passionate for the gospel. That was also clear in what we found that weekend. I think all along this process, it became clear to us through both individual prayer and corporate prayer that David was not only called to be the church, but uniquely and specifically called to serve Four Mile. And I think David shares that same opinion that he was not just called to ministry, but called to ministry here at Four Mile. And I think that's the reason, although qualified by the other reasons, the sheer fact that God is calling him to serve at Four Mile is the reason David stands out above the rest.